Hi, I'm Joe, and you're watching and Joke. This video is equally as late as my previous one, but as promised, this is the second and final part of my Scenic Wallpaper modeling. We'll be finishing off with a bit of modeling, geometry nodes, and texturing, including the first time I've used an HDRI, at least to my knowledge. But yet again, let me apologize for this video being late with some shameless self-promotion. On Amazon, we have the TTRPG notebook. On Redbubble, exclusively, we have the functional playmats. And on Redbubble and TeePublic, we have a range of designs for programmers and TTRPG enthusiasts alike. So if you're interested, go check out Red Jacket on Amazon, Redbubble, and TeePublic storefronts. Now on to the video. So before we get into the nodes, geometry, and texture alike, I need to do this last bit of modeling, which will be the wall around the perimeter of this estate, I guess. So on to the texturing. I want to start with the tatami mats. If you search for an image of a tatami mat, you'll see it appears to have these rows. The method I found to create these rows uses the checker texture, which would usually create a checkerboard pattern, but if you map it to a single axis, you get rows. I used two of them, one for the rows and one in a perpendicular direction for the individual threads of what I assume would be bamboo. And on a side note, I found out that the diffuse BDSF shader works well to keep things in a toon aesthetic. Afterwards, I moved on to the sliding doors and panels, starting with the paper-like section. I'm not really sure what it's made of, but starting with that, I used a combination of the transparent and translucent shader to make it a bit closer to what I was imagining. As for the wood which appears on the doors, panels, floors, and walls of the house, I went back to my room scene. If you don't know what that is, check out one of my previous videos in the card on the screen now. Shameless self-promotion. Either way, I went back to my room scene and grabbed a wood texture that I applied all over the place in various colors. For the final part before I move on to the geometry nodes, we have the wall. For the main body of the wall, I used the Voronoi texture, playing around with it till I got something I liked. I then used one Voronoi set to end sphere radius for the stones, and one set to distance to edge for the cement between the stones. The top of the wall used that brick texture, though I probably need to find a different method for this part because the texture didn't quite align correctly, though because I only meant for it to be seen from the camera's perspective, I think it's acceptable. Clearing the first set of texturing, I then moved on to geometry nodes. I used geometry nodes to make the grass around the area. I followed Taiwan Sunflower's tutorial on simple anime grass. Never completed part 2 though. Goals for another day. I also used the masking technique from Trung Dai Young. Sorry if I pronounced any of these names wrong. But instead of using the mask made with vector painting on the random input of an instance on points node, those were a lot of technical words. Since Taiwan Sunflower's tutorial didn't use instancing, but instead used hair generation, I used a delete geometry node right before the output. Once I finished the texturing from Taewon Sunflower's tutorial, I moved on to texturing the sky. I started with simple colors, but I didn't think it looked quite right. So I decided to use a HDRI. This is the first time I've successfully applied a HDRI, though it's hard to find an anime-style HDRI sky, at least for free. That's when I stumbled upon a tutorial from our old friend, Comfy Mug, about turning realistic HDRIs to anime-style HDRIs. So using a Polyhaven HDRI by Greg Zal and Jared Guest, ironically the same one used in Comfy's tutorial, even though I hadn't watched the tutorial yet, I was finally able to finish putting together the scene. So with that set, I was finally done, and this is the final results. I still need to add a channel logo, but I'll probably do that in a short. Then I need to figure out where I'm gonna post this. I don't think I want to use DeviantArt, but we'll see. That's it for this video. Thanks yet again to Comfy Mug, Taewon Sunflower, and Trun Dae-young. I hope I'm getting that pronunciation right. A ton of links in the description, and if you like this video, you should check out my scene building playlist started this year, or you can check out some of my other projects I'm proud of, like this one. Or if you're excited for what comes next, please hit that notification bell and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and joke out!